First, starting off with some big news that dropped, I believe, last week with the 4-star edge, Jake Kreul. And correct me if I'm saying his last name improperly, because I told my people, I said, all right, awesome. I told my people that I would ask you because I know you're the professional at pronunciations. But he announced that he's going to, he's out of Orlando, Florida, IMG Academy. He's going to be making his commitment on August 12th. Where do you feel the Sooners stand in getting that commitment from Jake Kreul?
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's really interesting, Josh, because as recently as last weekend, Jake Kreul was telling everybody, reporters, fellow recruits, teammates, etc., that he was eyeing a commitment in October, was going to wait till Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and Texas, his final three, had the opportunity to play some games, put a product out there on the field. And it makes a lot of sense when your top school or one of your top schools is Oklahoma, because the Sooners have got to win in 2025. I mean, we've discussed that from a zillion different angles this offseason, Josh. I mean, it's a pivotal year for Oklahoma football in which they absolutely have to win games, or it's going to be an offseason of sweeping change. Now, all of a sudden, less than 72 hours after saying on the record with John Garcia of Rivals, yeah, I'm planning on committing sometime in October around my birthday, October 9th, he announces, nope, August 12th on ESPN's College Football Live. That's when the decision is going down. So in my mind, that timeline shift doesn't bode particularly well for Oklahoma, because you ask pretty much anybody in the industry, Oklahoma is Jake Kreul's top school. They have been his top school for a long, long time. So that is the status quo in the recruitment. Oklahoma at number one, everybody else chasing. When everything shifts that drastically, particularly with regard to the timeline, that would lead you to believe that the status quo has shifted. And so, understandably, there's been a lot of mounting confidence over the last couple of days from the Texas camp about where they stand with Jake Kreul and the Longhorn trend that is seemingly surging in his recruitment. Now, as of right now, as we sit here tonight, Thursday, August 7th, I don't know for a fact where Jake Kreul is going to commit next Tuesday. I feel quite confident that it's going to be OU or Texas. I do not believe it's going to be Ole Miss. But based on the sum of the intel from sources close to that situation that I've talked to, still feels like Oklahoma's holding on to the lead, and Texas is giving the kid a lot to think about. And so if you're the Sooners and you know at this point, okay, he's committing on August 12th, we no longer have to play winning football in order to convince him that this is where he needs to be, you're just really reverting back to the same pitch that you've made to the kid for the past 2+ years, right? Which is, we believed in you early. They offered him all the way back in July of 2023 before his sophomore year of high school. We believed in you. We've all invested in you relationally. You fit here. You can be the next R. Mason Thomas within this scheme. Everything that you are as a person and as a player is a hand-in-glove fit for the University of Oklahoma. And obviously, you're going to have to engage in financial conversations as well over these final days. But that's what Oklahoma is going to have to lean on here down the stretch to make sure that they hold off Texas in the race for Jake Kreul.
Yeah, and to your point, it kind of feels the same as maybe some, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit more as well. It feels the same as some recent commitments that happened pretty early and before the season started, where, you know, because of what Oklahoma had in terms of production last season, that kind of makes you, like you said, kind of makes you lean towards the I'm not really sure, because obviously you would think that if he's making that commitment before the season starts and before we see what Oklahoma is able to produce this season, that maybe it's going with the team that has wins on their record most recently, rather than, of course, Oklahoma.
Yeah, man, it's an interesting predicament that Oklahoma faces here with both Krell and Davian Gross heading into the fall, because both of those guys, and we don't know, there's no concrete commitment date on the schedule right now for Gross, but both of those guys are expected to commit before the season. And so really, like, here's what the conversation becomes. Even if you're able to get Jake Krell committed and or Davian Gross committed, Well, everything that we have said all offseason about the 2025 football season is still very much applicable, Josh. Like, you have to be able to hang on to these guys. And the way you hang on to them is you got to go win football games. If you don't, they're not going to stay committed anyway. So in many ways, the commitment, whenever it comes from Gross, and certainly the commitment on August 12th from Krell, in many ways just doesn't mark the end of the line. Regardless of the outcome, it doesn't mark the end of the line. You're going to have to see this whole process through and see it through with every single one of your current commits in the 2026 cycle, all the way until signing day in December.
Yeah, and I think when it gets closer to that time, and correct me if I'm wrong too, Jake Kreul also has his game day visit against Michigan for Oklahoma currently, right?
Tentatively, that is on the schedule, yes.
Okay, yeah. So obviously that could change if things were to go the other way. But I guess, does that give Oklahoma any kind of hope for maybe flipping in the future if things go well with that, if the commitment were to be made the other way, or would that be taken completely off the schedule?
That's a great question. And I don't know if we'll know the answer until August 12th when we know concretely where Jake Kreul is going. Now, obviously, if he does commit to Texas on the 12th, and then he's in Norman September 6th for the Michigan game anyway, then it's really as if nothing ever happened, right? Yeah. Then you don't even regard him necessarily as committed if you're an Oklahoma fan, because if he's still showing up to Norman, that demonstrates he still has a very high level of interest in your program. And at that point, he's just continuing to evaluate what you're able to do on the gridiron throughout the season. So I think even if he commits to Texas, as long as he is in town on September 6th, regardless of who he's committed to at the time, like, that's what you want to see if you're an Oklahoma fan. You want Jake Kreul in the building for that primetime showdown with the Wolverines.
Yeah, well said.